What's going on, button pushers? If you guys are new to the channel, welcome to the channel. If you guys are coming back, welcome back. Today we're talking about the Panasonic GH6, and I was a big user of the Panasonic GH4 and GH5. I didn't get to try the GH5 Mark II, but we're going to compare the GH6 a little bit to that based on the spec sheet and kind of my experiences using the GH5 itself and kind of what's expected of the GH6. So if you guys haven't already, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. I would definitely appreciate it and helps the channel a lot. So today we're talking about the GH6, and I don't exactly plan on buying this, but it is kind of exciting because it's been a while since the GH5 has been out. The GH5 was the camera that actually helped me kind of learn and get into video a bit more, because that was what I was using to shoot a bunch of music videos, commercials, promotional stuff, and it was something that was really like a staple in my career. So if you guys are here looking for like a hands-on kind of thing, then maybe this video is not for you, because I don't actually own a GH6, but I do have a lot of experience using the GH5, and I've made a lot of videos about the GH5. I've used the GH5 for a lot of videos. You know, I do have experiences with Panasonic. So let's jump into the spec list and see what we're getting from the GH6 compared to the GH5 Mark II. So with the GH6, we're getting a 25.5 megapixel sensor as opposed to the 20.3 megapixel sensor that you get on the GH5 Mark II, which is a pretty big jump of 5.2 megapixels, which is pretty decent. But again, if you're getting the GH5 and GH6, you're not looking for a photo camera. This is more geared towards video. Like, this is the kind of entryway into the cinema world. We're getting unlimited recording in 4K 60, 422 10-bit, and if you guys are familiar with codecs at all, you know that 422 10-bit is a pretty good codec when it comes to having details and being able to have a bit more control of your color as opposed to just using all-I and IPB. If you don't know what all-I and IPB are, it's pretty much those codecs that come with most cameras like DSLRs and whatnot. It's just compression rates pretty much. So 10-bit 422 has a lot less compression than, you know, IPB, all-I, and anything 8-bit, 6-bit, whatever. On top of that, we're getting 5.7K at 60 frames per second, 4K at 120, and full HD up to 300 FPS. And you can also record in ProRes 422, which is a whopping almost 2 gigabytes per second when you're shooting in 5.7K. So, you know, you might have to be very strategic when you're using that codec, maybe like for short burst or short commercial things where you know that you're going to have enough memory space for it, because that is a really big file. So that is something to keep in mind. So in the GH6, we're actually getting an extra stop of image stabilization. So in the GH5 Mark II, we had 6.5 stops of image stabilization. In the GH6, we're getting 7.5. So that extra stop of dual image stabilization is pretty nice, and we're going to be able to get some really nice stable footage out of that. And in my experiences using the GH5, I really enjoyed the image stabilization. It was one of those things that, you know, you couldn't really get past. And though it is a micro four thirds sensor, which is super cropped in, and when you did use the image stabilizer, it did crop in before, we're not getting any crop on the image stabilization now. You know, using the GH4 and the GH5, I always really loved the image quality coming out of the camera. It was like super sharp. There was a ton of detail. It was like, this is like a staple of, you know, entry level getting to know video kind of thing, getting into the high production world, as opposed to before the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera 6K. The GH5 was like the thing to go to when you were looking for something entry level. We're getting a CF Express and an SD card slot, so, you know, it's kind of like gearing towards the more modern kind of things. And then we're also getting active cooling in here. But what I really love is you can save $100 because the V-Log is included in these cameras. I remember back in the day, you had to spend like, what was it, $100 just to get the V-Log implemented into the GH5. That was just an extra $100 that could have just been included, you know? But, you know, it's fine. It's fine. V-Log is pretty nice. Like, it's super flat profile and it looks really good. It's very easy for coloring if you knew how to color it back in the day. You know, I didn't really know how to color, so a lot of my images were coming out super warm, but I feel like Panasonic has a really good color codec because it just has so much control. V-Log is really nice. The images you can get out of a GH5 II or GH5 and GH6 or even an S1H are absolutely amazing. And I really think Panasonic has really nailed it in the game, because they are like one of the biggest things for entry-level people and even more professional people. A lot of people love the Panasonic series when it comes to just using. Now, last two things that we're going to talk about for the GH5 II and the GH6. So the GH5 Mark II has 225 areas of autofocus, while the GH6 has 315. So the autofocus is just ever so slightly better. I found this video on YouTube by a man named Richard Wong, and he really goes through and kind of shows you the autofocus between GH5, GH5 II, and GH6. He really shows it, and it's not too big of a difference. I still wouldn't rely on Panasonic's autofocus, and I'm sure it's a lot better than what it was on the GH4 and the original GH5, but I don't know. Panasonic hasn't really ever like put their main focus on autofocus. They have so many other things implemented into this camera, and I feel like autofocus is the least of their worries, especially in those higher cinema world. We don't really use autofocus because we do manual focus, we have a first AC, we have someone pulling focus for us. So, you know, I think they're trying to implement themselves into that standard. But Panasonic does talk about how there is like tracking and all that stuff. But again, if you guys are looking for something with really good autofocus, I feel like Panasonic is not the way to go, but it's still an absolutely amazing camera. And especially for the price tag of $2,200, this is a very, very good steal and very good competitive pricing into the market. The GH5 II originally listed for $1,700, so this is just a few $100 more, and it does boast a few more features, and it seems very promising. So is there a huge difference? Should you upgrade from the GH5 II to the GH6 or the GH5 to the GH6? Honestly, I feel like you could. It is a little step up depending on your budget, depending on how much you can actually trade in or sell your GH5 for. I feel like it could be a good price, but is it necessary? Is it like huge jump? Honestly, I feel like it's not that big of a jump, because especially if you guys are looking to shoot 5.7K 60, and if you don't have the storage for that, because remember, you got to get CF Express cards, which are super duper expensive. There is a lot you have to upgrade when it comes to that: memory storage and all that stuff, space for your computer depending on how much you're going to use that 5.7K. And if you're not using that 5.7K, I feel like you could just stick with the GH5 II or the GH5, and it really depends on where you are financially. Personally, again, I'm not going to go back to Panasonic because I'm so invested in the Canon's user space and the Red user space that I don't really need any more Panasonic or Lumix cameras. But I definitely love Panasonic, and I would recommend them over, you know, a lot of different cameras. So if you guys are thinking about jumping into the Panasonic space, I would definitely recommend it. They're super awesome. But so ultimately, it's up to you if you want to upgrade to the GH6. I feel like there could be a lot more to upgrade, but there are some firmware updates that were promised by Panasonic. So let me take a look at that for you guys. DCI 4K Apple ProRes 422 HQ / Apple ProRes 422, as well as that in full HD, USB to SSD direct recording, 4K 120 HDMI video output during a live view, and 4K 120p HDMI raw video data output to the Atomos Ninja V. So if any of that interests you, then maybe the GH6 could be for you, because that is kind of big. 4K raw 120p recording into the Atomos V, that's pretty intense. But yeah, guys, GH6 looks super promising. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about the GH6. Is it worth upgrading? Am I missing anything? Because again, I have been out of the Panasonic and Lumix space for a good like 4 or 5 years now. So it has been a really long time. I haven't really, you know, been up to date with my Lumix stuff. But let me know in the comments if I missed anything. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you haven't already subscribed. Keep pushing buttons, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.